We've got a very, very special show with you today. We're going to go trip down memory lane, all 500 episodes. We're going to examine 6 pillars of the show. We're going to talk about how the show started. We're going to go back to those humble origins. We're going to talk about all the different guest stars that we've had, right? Celebrity guests that we've had. We're going to talk about the real stars of the show, guest investors, community guests that we've had. Then we're going to go take a stroll down memory lane of how the community kind of like came together, the different Not Your Average Investor meetups. And then we're going to go headline to headline, the quarterly market updates, what we have learned over time. And then GC and I will share a takeaway. Welcome everybody to the 500th edition of the Not Your Average Investor Show. But before I introduce anybody, we have one more montage, and that is the intro montage. You ready, GC?
Let's do this, baby.
Let's do this. We are live on Facebook. Little known fact about Gregg is that he speaks Polish, and he speaks it live on Facebook.
I know you're about to totally geek out for something else here.
I'm about to tell you that we're live on Facebook. We are live on Facebook for the Tuesday edition of the Not Your Average Investor Show. I'm breaking stuff all over the place because I'm so jacked up. Thursday edition, the JWB Rental Income Property of the Week.
Week.
The JWB Guest Investor of the Week.
Week. Welcome to the Thursday edition of the Not Your Average Investor Show. Hello and welcome to the Thursday edition of the Not Your Average Investor Show.
Welcome everybody to your weekly edition of the Not Your Average Investor Show. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez. With me, the man that they call GC because he is clearly a golf commentator, great content creator. He's the golden child of rental properties because he's just a goodness capsule. Because he's a gentleman cavalier. He's a galloping cheetah in the morning rain this morning. You should have seen him.
What's better, to be a gazelle or a cheetah?
Because it's a good call to hang out with him. The guy who is great in cold weather, because he's a gifted conversationalist, which is why he's going to be leading the interview today, because he just gives clarity on important topics like today. With me, as always, the guy that they call GC, the guy that generates cash flow, the guy with the genius concepts, the guy who is a great co-host, and his name also happens to be Gregg Cohen. Welcome, Gregg.
Boom. That's my favorite one so far. I love that one, brother. Good to be with you all. Thank you, Pablo. Thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your day.
For our community that knows where they're at. GC. How about the GC montage, buddy?
So good.
Say hello, GC.
Hello, everybody. Fantastic to be with you.
That was, little known fact. Zach Correa was the guy that ended up congealing all the GCs together to make one standard GC. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez. With me, as always, the man that I affectionately like to call GC because the genius concepts, knows how to generate cash flow, is a great co-host, and his name is Gregg Cohen.
Hello, everybody. Fantastic to be with you again today. Guys, this is awesome to be here in the studio for number 500. I can't believe we're here.
Humble beginnings, right? Like I remember my old apartment. That was the backdrop,
yes.
Right? Like and then the office and all these different kinds of things. And I remember as we were starting the community, it was really important that we acknowledge people and we started giving nicknames, and eventually the nicknames turned into a little tradition. GC, do you know what that is?
The roll call, baby.
Roll call, baby. Let's go stroll down roll call memory lane here. That comes all the time. I think we're used to this as a new tradition. It's the roll call. We got our leadoff hitter today,
John Henning.
We got the early bird checking in,
Mr. Dean Curry.
We got Drew Barnhill, the ringmaster. We got the Shaw man of the Not Your Average Investor.
Nadine Shaw.
Eddie Harris from Atlanta. We got Chris Lee from Fernandina Beach, and we got Hervé Francois. We got the fairy godmother of the Not Your Average Investor community,
Jen Filzen.
We got Lydia Filzen, the mother of the godmother of the Not Your Average Investor community. We got our favorite name to pronounce, Aaron O'Neill.
Into the light.
We got the MVP. You heard of the MVP, Aaron?
Yes, Lee Bishop.
Lee Bishop, everybody. Marilyn Cotterman from Homosassa, Florida.
home of the manatees.
Welcome. We got the mailman on.
Bill Green.
We got the maven of real estate from the mountains of Colorado.
Miss Leslie Wilson.
The mystery man.
Denny Davies.
Big Papa Nas. We love it when he calls him Big Papa.
Pops, how are you, my man?
The co-founder of the co-founder, Jay Cohen.
We got Le Monsieur Reggie Français from Les Linden Bayard. Good to have you, Reggie.
We got the first family in the house, the patriarch and matriarch, Ken and Carolyn Malines.
We salute you.
We got the second family of the Not Your Average Investor Show community, our regulars, the Riley family, Gary and Rosalind from Marietta, California. Our regards. We regard you.
So we got the patron Santorios of the Not Your Average Investor Show community.
Michael Santorios.
We got Louis Hudnall from our favorite place to mispronounce.
Milipitas, California.
We got our amigo. Buenas tardes, damas y caballeros.
Mr. Bill Shields.
We got the man that everybody knows as Noah Rundari. We got number one Gregg, the better Gregg.
The better Gregg. Greg's down.
We got Milady in the house.
Jack Chatham.
Oh, man. The roll call.
So good, man. So good. And wow. I mean, I don't even know what to say.
If you were joining us for the first time today, just know that we've been doing this for 500 shows. We've gotten sometimes weirder, sometimes louder, sometimes more professional, right? It's come a long way, man. It's come a long way. GC, take us back to when we first decided to do this show. Take us back to Coop 303.
Yeah, I mean, I started out with this thought that, you know, what I have come to understand is when people get to spend time with my team here at JWB, they usually like us, and then they usually buy our stuff. And that was my premise for starting the show. It was like, how could we hang out with our clients more, ultimately to be able to help serve them, help them buy more properties and things of that nature. That was my big premise, but I had no idea how to do it. And I tried every other way to be able to spend more time with my clients and kind of go one to many. And I just screwed it up for like 2 years prior. So I didn't know Pablo at that time. We had been introduced through Whitney Ritchie, and but he was a guy that I knew had a different take on marketing. And I didn't even know this was your thing, but I was like I was a depressed marketer at that time. And I was searching for a better way. I knew that there could be a better way. And so I said, hey man, will you go get a drink with me at Coop 303? And you know, from there, sparks flew, and here we are.
Here we are 500 episodes later. Going down that memory lane of the different folks that we call in, different folks that would call in. I see some names here in the chat, right? Like I see our friends that always show up, a lot of folks that we just called out. I see people that we haven't seen in a while, like Zach Correa. I can't help but think of Marilyn Cotterman, and I wonder where Marilyn is.
I
Home
know.
of the Manatees. I wish she would have joined us here, but she kind of was like the first nickname, right? Like that was kind of like the first thing that we started when people would identify themselves in the chat and started like kind of like calling them out. And she would always say, home of South Florida, home of the Manatees.
It's amazing how these nicknames have literally helped. They have changed the trajectory of how their friends call them, what their friends call them.
True.
I can tell you that very, very few people called me GC before 6 years ago. Like they would call me other nicknames, Cohen, whatever, but very, very few people called me GC. Now everybody in the office calls me GC. You all call me GC. A lot of my friends now call me GC. So I think it's probably had a big effect on the, 100, 200 other folks who tune in regularly as well.
You bought a building called the GC building.
How about that?
I mean, how about that?
Stars align.
Stars align. All right, GC. So we set off to do this. I remember the idea was what you said, right? Like I need people to spend more time with us. I need people to understand us. And I remember our conversation being something along the lines of like, man, we got to talk about our returns and these kinds of things. I was like, no, man, you need to show other people who else is doing this, right? Like I remember having this conversation around if I just took a bet. I was just like, I bet you that you have these really interesting clients. I bet you have all these folks that have all these interesting stories that are entrepreneurs and successful business people and influencers in many ways in their own circles of life. And if we started showing who else is thinking this way, people would start to be like, oh man, I want to be like that person. Right. And that was just kind of like the bet, right? The bet was this idea that we normalize real estate investing through social proof.
Right.
And our first go at this thing was kind of like, you know, it didn't look very unlike this, right? Like we set up like a studio. We invited, I think it was Whitney Ritchie. We invited 8 people to do back-to-back interviews and then put him out there. And then everything changed. Right. And then that was January of 2020. Right. So I think everybody knows where this went, but let's show the beginning of this show and how COVID really kind of like changed the direction of everything. Mostly because I think it thrust you into, from this only being about others, into you having to tell the world what you see and what's coming. I think that was the big thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's check this out. Gregg, tell me kind of what you are up to these days, right? Like, tell me what JWB is right now, what your role is, what you're doing right now.
I'm fresh out of planning my goals for 2020. I just wrote that, so I'm gonna be like, I'm normally like really fired up. I'm like extra fired up right now.
I love it.
Coronavirus officially hitting the U.S. Here's what we know.
I have today declared that the coronavirus presents a public health emergency in the United States.
Yeah, we're live, man. We are live in the group, I believe.
We are here again.
How are you feeling?
I think really over the last few days, just the full understanding of what this is meaning has really landed on me, as I think the rest of the world. I just keep going back to thinking how blessed we are, how blessed most of the people on this call are. If I think more about JWB, I feel like we're really blessed because we're really well positioned to handle this. I hope that they think long term rather than short term. But for JWB, we're in a really healthy position and we can withstand a change like this. What many people don't know is that one of the things that's most resilient in a time where there is a huge nationwide economic disaster is housing. Folks have asked me, hey, Gregg, is it still a good time to buy rental properties right now? Are you still buying yourself? And my answer is yes. Temporary is what it is. We can all agree that it is going to be temporary. Every single year, people have said, do you think that we're in a bubble, Gregg? People talk about more if we're in a bubble today than they did when we were actually in a bubble in 2006. I never heard that we were in a bubble in 2006 and 2007. As shocking as that may seem, we're buying more today than we did last year. You're seeing about how we're investing even in downtown Jacksonville, right? You wouldn't do those things if you thought that there was a bubble. For those that are JWB clients, for those who are thinking about investing in rental properties, I don't think this is gonna have one change to the long-term appreciation rate of your asset. If you invest in Jacksonville, the average appreciation rate in Jacksonville each year is 4.3%. That is the exact same appreciation rate for the long-term historical appreciation rate of Jacksonville if you go back to 1991. That's what gave me the confidence to come strong with all of you and say, listen, if rental properties were a good decision 6 months ago or 3 months ago before COVID broke, they're still a great decision. We feel really good about our response to be able to serve clients. We really are looking at this as an opportunity for us to underpromise and overdeliver and really wow people and show people how much we value them depending on us in a time like this. JWB is actually doing what's called a mortgage payment guarantee. If a resident can't pay their rent for whatever reason, we're taking that risk off the table for you. We make a payment to our owners that's equal to whatever their monthly mortgage payment would be, and it removes the possibility of negative cash flow. And we do this for a full 6 months. Even though we were dealing with COVID, would you believe that our rent collection at JWB was 97.5% for the month of April, which is an incredible testament to the team, to our property management team, to our ability to put the right residents in, but to keep those relationships with those residents who are enduring very difficult times. We want to be as open and communicative as possible. That's why you guys are probably going to get tired of me talking and in an outlet like this, because I want to be there in front of our clients, our people that depend on us.
Sorry for the late start today. We had some technical issues here in the studio. OGC is setting up somewhere else because we couldn't figure it out.
My friend, can you hear me?
Gregg, are you there?
I am here. I was trying to get him the sneak peek of the office as I was running upstairs into my desk here.
It looked like a sneak peek of like your pocket, so I figured that. There he is.
There we are, everybody. On location, in the office, outside of the studio. We are making it happen, brother.
We're making it happen, my friend.
Oh man. So what take us back, man.
Yeah. I've watched that first episode after the full weight of COVID was upon us. And I connected instantly to the emotion of that moment. It still hits me hard. Like I remember preparing for that. And I mean, it was hard not to keep it together. It was hard to just physically speak about what was going on in the world at that moment. And I didn't have a lot of answers, but I just remembered I just needed to be there with you all. I just, even if we don't have the answers, you just got to be there and be honest and truthful in those moments. And so, but I remembered the strength and the confidence that also kind of came to me in the months afterwards as well. As, there was that moment where nobody knew what was going on and we all just kind of needed to lean in and say, this is going to be okay. But then I remember developing this rapport, and I think the community gave me a lot of confidence because I do need to share with you guys that I'm about the least likely person to be sitting in this seat 6 years later, 500 episodes later. In the beginning, even though I've been doing this for 20 years, I never really thought of myself as a thought leader. It was kind of scary to me. And so I went to a conference and they talked about how the owner or, one of the folks who's leading the business really should be speaking from the heart and be that thought leader and develop rapport and community. And I thought, wow, that sounds really scary to me. So if you could think of that basic setting, and then your very first show, you convinced me to kind of do this thing, and then we kind of did it one time, and then all of a sudden, the next moment, we had 300-400 of our closest clients looking to me to give answers during COVID. That was a growth moment for me. So, but I'm so thankful because then it became kind of like this muscle to exercise, and with each show and with you all continuing to show up, I think together we all developed this confidence, and here we are 500 episodes later.
It's wild to know you how I know you now and to think of who I thought I knew then.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
like
very different person.
you did show up as this like stoic, well put together. I now know that behind the scenes, you probably rehearsed that for about 48 hours. You didn't sleep for the 3 days before it.
Yeah. It was really tough.
And you showed up, just kind of like vulnerable and open and talking about it. And not just did you show up talking about it, you came out. I remember you telling me, hey man, I think that people are wrong, right? Like the feeling in the world was screaming for the hills, chaos, right? Like everything is on fire, and some things quite frankly were chaotic.
Right.
I remember you saying, man, just the way that this thing performs, I think it's going to be different. And there was like a split moment right before that first show where I was like, I think you should go with it.
Yeah. Yeah, you did.
And that was the beginning of you starting to really not just report, but to get more and more comfortable with standing in your truth and going against the current and whatnot. And it started small, nowadays you're out there with a flaming sword of bashing headlines, right? But that was a big deal. And I think it was a really big deal for all of us. Like that weekly, I would call it like a weekly press conference almost,
right,
became this like moment of consistency for all of us in an inconsistent world that really, really brought us together. And I don't know, man, like for me, when I think of the giant bet that I took of convincing you that it's worth building a community, not just a content stream, I don't know how quickly it would have happened had it not been for that black swan. Like COVID in a way was the giant accelerator that made us all really come together. And I'll never forget that piece.
100%. Obviously there's a lot of negatives that came from COVID, but if I think about the amount of growth that it accelerated for myself personally and for this show and for this community, we needed something. We needed an outlet at that moment, and all we had was online. And you all came here in droves, and it made me a better leader to be able to be there when you guys need us most from an investment perspective.
I love the quotes coming in here in the chat. Stevie B saying life begins on the other side of your comfort zone. Totally. That's totally your, like, that's all you right there, man. Daniel Duran Garza saying 500 episodes. That's like doing the semi-quincentennial twice as fast. Clearly freedom, financial strategy, and podcasting all thrive on consistency. We talked about this idea of like, what else have we done 500 times in 6 years? And we have very few answers to that.
Very few answers.
Outside of, you know, like you telling your wife, your wife thinks that they love them. I don't know if I have one. Like I tell my wife I love her, right? But like, but yeah, anyway, so then, you know, still kept going on, right? Like as things started to normalize, the shape of the show started taking place. And I think there's essentially these like constants that we've had with the show, which have been, we always started with guests, right? Like we started with these like celebrity guests. And the evolution of these celebrity guests, from thought leaders to politicians to big business people, has gone through the years. And I think you're going to see like a common theme here as we take that trip down memory lane with these celebrity guests.
This industry is an inflation hedge. I mean, I see in the chat all the comments about labor and causing construction costs to go through the roof. Well, if the cost of replacing the asset you own is going up, that's called an inflation hedge too. That's why my big time investor and clients are like, geez, this is just the best risk adjusted return I can find anywhere right now, for exactly that reason.
Well, if you believe inflation is here to stay, and you believe that it's going to be a while to catch up with inflation, then hard assets is where money belongs.
Think about it this way. If you buy assets, those assets are going to appreciate in tandem with the money being printed. So you're hedging against a devaluing dollar. If you sit in cash, you're losing money. If you buy assets, then your net worth is growing at the same degree as the money being printed. And then you're earning cash flow that you can live on.
Greg, I'm sure your listeners know, but, you know, debt is the biggest accelerator to create wealth, in my opinion, you know, in this country. And right now, the last thing you want is a lot of cash. You know, I mean, it's just being devalued, you know, more and more on a daily basis. You got to get it out, got to get it to work.
I think the really great opportunity here is that we are stitching a lot of the different areas of downtown back together. That means not only do we have the opportunity to be successful in what we're doing, but the investment that we're making, the city is making, has the opportunity to spread, you know, very easily into adjoining spaces and neighborhoods.
And I can't see any future anyway that Jacksonville does not continue to explode as a magnet for companies, for jobs, for population growth. It's got every element any city could want to have.
I think Jacksonville, where we are on our trajectory in terms of growth and development and things of that nature, we are an emerging city.
If we hit serious economic times in Jacksonville, the city is positioned to weather it and weather it in a very strong way. I feel good about it.
We're at this point right now that you're actually going to see these projects come out of the ground. My prediction is in the next 5 years, you won't recognize downtown.
Jacksonville, this generation, us, right now, we're writing, I think, the most important chapters in our city's history, where we evolve from where we've been to what's this really amazing modern southern city of the future.
Somebody said to me the other day, you can't be a suburb of nowhere. And I absolutely loved that. If we invest in downtown, it will end up giving us the resources we need to invest in the rest of the city. Mm-hmm. It's just critical that we do that. And you see everything that's happening downtown. You all are a big part of that, we love right?
I want everybody to have financial abundance and prosperity. But the only way we do that is if we first get financial security. You need to position yourself for success, but then you also need to position yourself for when bad things happen.
I think the safest investment is single family rentals. I think it'll historically always be the safest long-term investment because that investment will perform well long-term.
We talked about COVID earlier. A lot of restaurants went out of business, right? So basically grocery stores and real estate were the two that really thrived in this. So, you know, not only do you add value and provide shelter for people, but you can also help people in creating that freedom of time through investing.
The market is more important than the property. In fact, I've somewhat been known for telling people that are all enthusiastic about real estate investing, stop looking at property. Just stop. Just take a step back.
I always say to exchangers, you're not just doing an exchange to defer taxes. Most of our exchangers, and I think Gregg would say the same thing, is that they're looking to keep the money and also stay in real estate. By having that, they're creating that wealth and return on investment.
You never want to wait till all 15 stoplights are green. Make the first one be green and just go, right? Go. Start investing. Time is your best friend when investing. You don't have to wait until 3 properties, 5 properties. 10. No, you can do this concept with 1 property. It applies everywhere.
And I think you guys know this. Toughest property is oftentimes your first property. Just jumping into this, like that little kid who's on the diving board who's scared to jump in. Once they jump in, they're like, oh, geez, that was no big deal.
Once we bought that first property and the numbers worked exactly the way we wanted, I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. You know, we are going to make this happen. And I just knew that my life was going to be different.
Interesting to see the, just so much time has gone by, right? Like even the folks on that show, we've seen multiple mayors on the show,
Right. Yeah.
right? Like folks that we thought were going to be mayor, you know, like different elected officials that like the beginning of Brian Mole, who's now a pillar of this community kind of thing. A handful of real estate educators, some big names, big influencers, you know, like Rachel Richards there at the end was just kind of like getting started. She's become like a really, really big deal. A couple of former professional athletes, right? A tennis legend.
Yeah.
Man, what out of those, I think when we were running this morning, I was thinking that those like celebrity interviews to me were almost like harbingers of what was coming. Like it was like the people talking about the things coming before they were coming. And
Yeah.
we were getting them early on. The inflation topic, the city, you know, like the city doing its thing.
Right.
I don't know, man. What's your takeaway from those?
You know, I'm really thankful for my friends in the space, or my friends in the city, and my mentors. Many of those folks that we just saw are mentors to me, and they helped shape who I am as an investor and as a leader. And I haven't really taken a step and just seen the power of the network, you know, the power of the network, and the network that I get to share with all of you. And when I think about what is the reason that people keep coming back here, sure, it's the content and the data and the perspective that helps.
Yeah.
But it's all of you. It's the power of the network, you know? So I hadn't taken a moment just to be grateful for all of those folks that spent their time here in a minute. So that was the first thing that jumped out. And then just the consistency of the message, the consistency over and over and over. When you see people that are super successful in multiple different ways, whether that's real estate or politics or authors or sports or business, you name it, and they all say the same thing or a version of the same thing, gives everybody a lot of confidence that they're onto something.
True.
You know, and I think at the end of the day, this show is one of the things that it does the best is it gives people confidence to be able to take a step forward. So yeah, those are the couple things that just jumped out to me, but man, what an all-star crew. I'm excited to give some of them a call back and get them back on the show.
Yeah, we got a couple requests for Than Merrill.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. Would love that. We saw a lot of love coming in for Than Merrill, Keith Feinhold, like kind of like the real estate educators of the show. I think all have their own kind of like following within our community. Also, something that for me was a takeaway as I was thinking about these, and we obviously didn't have time to show everybody, right? But there was moments on the show where these lesser known elected officials started giving us teasers of what was coming. One of my favorite ones was this, was when we had the head of the JTA on, Nat Ford, and he was talking about Jacksonville becoming this leader in autonomous driving vehicles for the public sector. And I was just driving into San Marcos the other day. There is now this like autonomous vehicle, like have you seen this building? It's called like the it's
Jacksonville Regional Transportation Center.
The Jacksonville Regional Transportation Center now has some like name that has to do with like autonomous vehicles. I took a picture of it. I meant to send it to you.
Yeah.
But there's like a whole center of like autonomous vehicle development. So it's like having these kind of insiders on the show ahead of time, whether it's the port or it's the, that like airfield that's going to be doing space travel from here and all these different kinds of things. It's like this window into the future of Jacksonville that we get to really, really normalize and see. And like you say, real estate has the answers of the test before you take it. And by knowing these folks that are on the ground doing these things, the power of the network turns into this kind of like completely above board insider information that we're sharing with everybody, which I think is really cool.
I mean, some of it's just cool to understand, and some of it is a huge investing advantage to understand. You talked about Nat Ford, who's the CEO of Jacksonville Transportation Authority. Nat was talking about how Jacksonville is a leader in autonomous vehicles, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago when we did that interview.
Yeah.
Now we are the first city to have autonomous vehicles on our city's streetscape, intertwined with regular traffic in the entire country from a public perspective. So
public transportation,
woven into traffic. That's happening here. That happened probably about a year ago. And you would never know if you were an investor without access to be able to speak to Nat, 3 years ago, 5 years ago. So we got to get Nat back on here so we can talk about the next step.
We talk about Nat every time that we need another public official,
reach out to him.
and then we never end up getting him back on. So we should get him in the studio. Yeah, for sure. Let's get Nat back in here. All right, GC. So somebody said in here we had all these celebrities and Lee wasn't shown. That's because the real stars of the show have really been the community members, right? So this is our compilation of community members, what we like to call our guest investors on the show, and the lessons that they've shared.
I bought a property. It was being rehabbed. The turnkey provider that sold it to me, they said, hey, don't worry, 2 weeks left. That's all. Turns out they just left it exactly where it was. Pretty much no tenants. The place was like code violations, all kinds of horrible, horrible stuff.
My first turnkey property, I owned it for around 10 years. It was not a great experience. It ended up being something I bought to be passive, and it wasn't passive. It ended up being a headache.
Yeah, I found this little house, got it very cheap, needed to be totally gutted. I basically spent about 2.5 years renovating that and got to the end of the 2.5 years and I was sick of it.
We tried managing it ourselves, and let me tell you, I will never, ever do that again. And this was just one property. It was our first tenant, and they were a nightmare.
And there was everything that you could possibly think happened, right? The guy who left the water on and then got mold and said he had to sue me because there was mold in the house. There's all these stories about things that happen when you're doing these things on your own.
Switching from the fixed mindset to the growth mindset. For us, it's not just knowing about that mindset, it's about doing and applying it. I didn't talk about my failures. We have a lot of failures. All of us do. But it's the most important thing about failing and getting that mindset, the growth mindset, is that it's what you do afterwards.
When my husband passed away, I realized I was going to be single now. My income tax was going to go through the roof. And the kicker is, if you go over a certain threshold of that earned income, they start taxing your Social Security too. So I decided, because the rental house, I could see that one rental house we had was a small tax shelter.
Years ago, I was one of those people, you get to these things and you want to do it, but you stop yourself. I was almost 50. I had been divorced, and I'm also, physically handicapped. Now, looking back, I wish I had done it sooner, and I wouldn't change it for anything, really, because it really turned out great.
I work with really 3 specific teams. One of them obviously being JWB. And the reason why I work with those teams is because they have what's called a vertical line of accountability. What is a vertical line of accountability? They do it all. They find the house, they buy it, they renovate it, they place the tenant, and they manage it.
JWB was a really different approach. It was very goal-oriented. Yes, they asked questions about my goals, what I wanted to achieve. It's like partnering with you towards your future success rather than just selling your properties.
I just felt like I had a supportive process throughout my entire journey, from selling my townhouse in Salt Lake to gaining 2 properties with JWB.
I no longer wanted to manage the property myself. JWB had a really good system set up to manage properties and to get a return for their investors. Now I currently have 8 properties with JWB.
Well, I was 84 when I started investing with JWB. I'm 85 now. We essentially purchased 6 homes within 13 months. So our cash flow improved significantly. We were up close to $5,000 a month in cash flow.
A new JWB rental property, I was analyzing the rent and if that tenant can pay my taxes, my insurance, my mortgage. So basically, for my second property, I'd be getting a free house and free $150 cash flow.
We worked out a situation where JWB bought 2 of the houses back from me. I paid off all 3 loans and had enough money left over to buy a 4th house with cash. So that leaves me now with 4 paid off homes and money coming in every month.
And then we just had a tenant move out with no warning. They called and said, hey, we're out of the house, which is pretty crazy. And so we had to do a turn on the property. You guys had it turned and back on market in 7 days, which was freaking nuts.
I am now at the position where I could walk away from my normal primary job. My W-2 job does not have me handcuffed.
Providing good housing for people and a great lifestyle for myself. You get back your time, which is the most valuable thing any of us have.
Like I said before, many, many times, and I say it to everyone and I'll scream it from the rooftops, I cannot think of another way to prepare for retirement than to put your money into a great asset like real estate. You can invest in your 401k, you can put your money in your IRA, your Roth and all that, but when push comes to shove, I'm collecting cash flow on a monthly basis. I still own all my assets. I'm not selling them to live off of.
It's more than I remember, man. So many people. Yeah, it's good stuff. When I think of the guest investor shows, I think of these moments where they essentially bring to life the things that we continue to try to explain, right? Like whether it's Saran with a plan and how she found her property babies, or it's my good buddy Rich, who, by the way, is now a voice actor, and you can tell that he had the beginnings of a voice actor in those moments. And he coined this, the deal is the debt, right? Or Tim Hicks talking about debt pay down being this like super high floor thing. It's really been this like community sourced messaging that has really resonated for me to truly understand the investor experience.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. We sit down sometimes and we'll plan out how the show is going to go. And then in the middle of the show, we get this amazing nugget. I see it on your face. You're like, oh, I really like that. I'm like, okay. And then that becomes a future show, and that becomes a kind of a mantra. Yeah. And it's not something that we could have thought of. It's it comes through this wonderful community. When I think about the real stars of the show, our community who continues to show up and who show up as a guest, man, I'm so thankful that you guys are willing to share your story, because it's not easy to do that. It's not easy to share your story. And we share financial stuff, and that's not comfortable for a lot of people, but it's so necessary to help people see that there is this opportunity. So I'm so thankful for all of you. The other thing that sticks out to me is it hasn't been easy for our clients. It hasn't been easy for folks who maybe invested in real estate before becoming JWB clients to give it another shot. We saw a lot of single ladies out there who dealt with a lot of obstacles to being able to invest. People told them they couldn't do it, and maybe divorce and whatnot. We heard a few of those things, and now they're absolutely killing it. And I think about all the obstacles that our folks have had. Many obstacles are, hey, listen, I tried this before, I stubbed my toe. And then you got this whole world that's telling you, see what I told you, you can never do that. That was there's no way you should have tried that. But they gain the confidence in themselves and through here to give it another shot. So I'm so thankful for that. And then the other thing is just outcomes. We had, Leslie and Adam and Zach and Denny and Lee and everybody is talking about what their life is like now. And that's the reason I started this company. It was to be able to have a moment like that I could share in that outcome and give a high five or give a hug or whatever it is. Definitely a hug for Lee, and to be able to celebrate that together. So we get to see that on the regular here. So, that's really what this show is all about.
It really is, man. It really is it's the tacit knowledge exchange, right? Like the thing that each of us has learned, and we can share with others has been very much a common theme to what's led to success in my life, is leaning into that, right? Like I think a little bit before we met, maybe a year before we met, I read this quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson that said, in my walks, every man I meet is in some way my superior, and in that I can learn from him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was this aha moment of me of just like, man, everybody that I come across has something that they've experienced, that if I can take that thing that they've experienced, that I need to experience, and I can save myself kind of like the torture and the lesson and the hardship of it, and just take it to heart and start adding it to my life, things will change for me. And that's really what's happened. And I think that this community has been a giant acceleration for that. I have more to say on that later, but you know, to me, that is a great representation of these investor stories, right? Like the one common theme in all of these investor stories is that as we're warming up, they're like, I don't feel like I have anything to share, right? Like every single person that hasn't done this before, you know this if you've been on the show with me, right? Like you show up and you're like, I don't know if my thing will do it, but I'll do it because I'm trying to challenge myself, or you guys are cool, or I want to be your friend, whatever. And there's always something that comes from these individual journeys that we then take, that we then, you know, continue to iterate upon, that helps somebody else. So I see these every time somebody from our community decides to share their investor journey. It's this like beautiful act of service that we get to share with everybody else. So super, super grateful for that. And, you know, this is all kind of like podcast stuff, right? Like having interviews of guest investors and celebrities is podcast stuff. But, you know, things started really changing when we realized this was truly becoming.
Today we have a huge day with my co-host, GC, the guy who is the general of this community. His name is Gregg Cohen. Welcome, Gregg.
Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you, Drill Sergeant. I appreciate that. That was a mixture of just absolute being very fired up and almost like it was like angry and excited.
Yeah,
you're ready to rock.
I'm both one part angry, one part excited. I'm not angry at all, Gregg. I'm just jacked up, bro. We got Fan Appreciation Day today.
You guys get along well. It's great to see. It's fun. I sit here and I'm watching you guys just like this, right on this PC, and I'm laughing. And I'm going, oh my God, these guys are nuts together. It's fun. I want to be a part of it. I want to be friends with these guys, you know, and I feel like I am.
This podcast made it easier for me to trust you, because even though, you know, we're just on the computer, I feel you do get a good sense of who this community is. And so I'm really thankful to you guys to do this.
When I'm in the Philippines, the timing of it and my schedule doesn't always allow, but when I'm here, we are watching the show. Through this process, I've learned more about my parents, and especially my dad. Like, I didn't even know that at one time before I was born, he had a realtor's license. I was like, wait, what?
We're so proud of what you guys have built. And it's a party. It's like a party twice a week. It's awesome.
Like on the Tuesday show, Thursday show, I feel like I'm joining part of a family.
Because it's educational and a lot of good information. Yeah. Tune in. Tuesday and Thursday, not your average investor show.
Last year, the community became real. This year, we decided we would do a series of like IRL meetups.
You know what I love? You know what I love about this right now is that you guys, you're staying at Bill's house.
I am staying at
You
Bill's
guys
house.
have become legit good buddies. Tell us about the adventures of Bill and Lee.
Oh God.
How did that start?
How did that start? It started with the show.
Access your community. Call guys like me if you want to learn how to wholesale a house. Call me. I'd be happy to help. I think any one of these Fortune Builder students, Dean, Aaron, MVP, for all these guys, but hey, I'm sure they would help you out because that's just who they are.
This is a community that truly cares about each other, about wanting to see each other have success stories, about wanting to root each other on. I mean, you can look no further than on show days when somebody chimes in that they've hit a housing milestone in the chat, and immediately the regulars jump in and just congratulate them, put their arms around them virtually, and wish them all the best in their future goals and future endeavors. It's a community like none other.
So I think that's the big differentiator, right? Like you remember when we had our first year, it was kind of like back end of COVID, and you're like, what's next? And I'm like, we need to get people together.
Yeah.
It was on a morning run. I remember it perfectly.
It was you and Jen. Jen was not going to let it not happen.
For sure.
Jen Filson, of course. But yeah, it was time to go IRL, and geez, I don't even think I could have stopped it at that point, because everybody was already meeting and meetups across the country and whatnot. This is truly something that is organic. We have never advertised for the show. We never forced it to happen. We just kind of paid attention to what the audience was wanting and then doing. And, eventually that turned into the summit.
I remember one time that I think you guys were in business planning. And it was the first time that you and your partners watched the show together. The only other times that you had missed the shows because you weren't here.
Right.
But then you and your partners watched the show together live, and you saw what was happening in the chat. Talk to me about that day.
Well, listen, when you have business partners for 20 years, it takes a lot to impress them after a while. And so I had been talking about the show for a while, but they're busy and they're doing other things. This has been kind of my baby. And so I corralled them in business planning. I said, guys, we're going to watch this one together for about 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And what was going on in the chat was very, very real, very genuine. People were talking about the friendships that they had. They were talking about the meetups that they were doing. They were talking about the properties they were buying. Mm-hmm. They were talking about the confidence that they had in the investment. And at that moment, my business partners were like, oh, now I get it. And I never could have shared enough. Yeah. There's no stats. There's no viewership stats that can relate that. But when you see your clients have a community, it's hard to put a dollar value on what that is worth to a business, but it when you see it, it's really valuable. And I remember that was a very valuable moment.
Yeah, super cool. So obviously the next natural step was to have our summits. This is kind of like the history of our summits real quick.
So I've been talking a lot about this theory about how, we're going to make a big impact in downtown Jacksonville, and we're going to bring all these developers here, and they're going to bring all of their people here, and they're going to bring the best and the most talented people, and they're going to raise median incomes. Well, I'm not just preaching here, okay? I don't know if anybody caught the news, but JWB bought this building, and we're moving our JWB office right here.
Actually, there's three things that I like about the community. It's diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I talk about diversity in age, diversity in experience, diversity in, so you can have multiple knowledge of real estate, and you're still part of the community. The second thing is equality, right? Equity. Relative to their show provides a lot of dynamics around different parts of real estate investing. And the final thing is inclusion. Talk about inclusion is that everyone together. It's actually, if I had a logo for JWB, it would be it brings unity to the community.
Kind of crazy to go back to like standing outside of the building that we're in right now and you announcing that, right?
I know. Man, it's been a year of milestones. It's just been like one after another. Yeah. But you forget, years of vision and like belief and hope that like went into it. And so this building has been that. We bought it in 2021, and years and years and years we worked on it to have it be what it is today. So moving in February of this year was an incredible milestone. January, we celebrated our 20-year anniversary as a company. in January, moved into our beautiful building in February, and here we are in May doing the 500th episode.
Don't forget about hosting the summit here in February as well.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yep. That's sort of a milestone as well.
You know, to me, the summit, it's obviously like a big celebration of our community, right? But we have a couple of those, right? We have the fan appreciation show, we have the summit, we have the IRL meetups. The summit to me is kind of like if you take snapshots of every summit, you see this nascent vision of JWB as a placemaker, JWB as a downtown developer, Jacksonville as a city that's emerging on a world stage, Jacksonville as a city that's arriving on a world stage, right? Like to me, the summit was really kind of like the vehicle of like the show, and the chat is what made the community real. The summit is what made this idea that we're all on the inside of this like rocket ship that nobody else really knows about, and we're just kind of like warming the engines right now. This downtown story, man, that's been amazing. From the scooter tours that we just showed, people scootering around when there's nothing happening, to now we're just like legitimately going into these spaces, hosting it inside one of these buildings, like doing all these things. Has been really incredible.
You know, when we started to go down the path of planning our first summit, my first thought was like, I have been to 1,000 real estate conferences. I've spoken on hundreds of stages, and most real estate conferences are boring or, you know, they just are pitch fests and they just are there to sell you stuff. And I was like, I'm not going to put my name behind a conference that is not cool to go to and a pitch fest. And I was like, what are we going to do so that when we look at the end of this conference, the end of this summit, we look back and we say, you know what? We did this our way and we loved it. And so then this was the time where I could start to finally share the story of downtown Jacksonville and JWB's investment in downtown Jacksonville. It started all kind of coming together right around when Summit started to take its form. You guys got to realize, I knew that we were buying all this downtown stuff for like 3 years, but I wasn't allowed to tell anybody. So as it all came together, and then we could finally go public with what our ventures downtown would be, and you all started showing up in droves, and we could bring 100, 200 people together. And then we were like, oh man, this can be the coolest real estate conference that I think you can put on, which is against the backdrop of the next great American downtown. And every year you get to see it take shape. So never could have planned that out. 6 years ago, there's no way we would have ever planned that out.
I think
but
you
it
would have
just came
thrown up if I would have told you we're going to have 100-person event 4 years ago, right? Like, and even as we got started, the idea of getting to 100 was a very scary number. Now we have to limit it at 100 in order to keep the magic alive, keep it intimate. Like we do it deliberately, right? Like it's almost like the anti-real estate conference, because it's really made under this new premise that is, nobody goes to events anymore to be like told about things. They go to events to connect with people first and experience things. And like we've just really leaned in on this idea that this is a place where you go to meet your friends that you've been wanting to meet with, connect with each other, share things with each other, and experience this ongoing tapestry of downtown being woven into the fabric, into the city, and all these different things. It's been really cool. Lee says the magic is keeping it small, which is really cool. At LinkedIn Lowry says the downtown difference between 2024 and 2025 was amazing to see. That was a big leap. For sure. We got a couple questions here in the Q&A that have to do with the downtown. David Baird's asking, where's the new building? GC, what's the address here?
It's 200 North Laura Street, if you want to Google it. It's right in the heart of downtown Jacksonville, the corner of Laura and Adams Street.
Yep, right in the heart of downtown, just south of that James Weldon Johnson Park, like 2 blocks south of the park, 2 blocks north of the river. It's
where you want to be.
Yeah, it's where you want to be. HTTN is asking, how do you see the Jaguars investing in Jacksonville downtown real estate? Is that the reason Duval County has sped up on redevelopment works in the area? How do you see their real estate development against JWB's and how it impacts overall real estate?
Great question, HT. So the first part of the question, just to lay the context, Jaguars and the city struck a deal about a year and a half ago, for a stadium renovation. It's a $1.4 billion stadium renovation, and it's dubbed the Stadium of the Future. And it's going on right now. There's a ton of cranes and activity all around the Jags stadium. So that happened. And HT is asking, well, when the city found out about this or was working through it, is that the reason why the city has sped up downtown's redevelopment? Actually, the answer is no. The city started to get very intentional about downtown development over a decade ago. And I know that because we were on trips to go with city officials to other successful downtowns. And we started to ask those other successful downtowns, what happened when your downtown became great? What happened to population? What happened to jobs? What happened to median income? What happened to quality of life? And what we found is that a growing downtown, a revitalized downtown is about the best thing you can do for all of those things. And so the city became very, very intentional. So things started to happen. There was a new voice for downtown that was created. It's called the Downtown Investment Authority. That happened a little bit over a decade ago. That was very, very instrumental for doing a downtown revitalization the right way. City incentive programs started to become actually incentive programs that could make sense for a developer to take the risk to develop a building downtown. Before, they were capped at very low amounts, and there's no way that a developer was going to come in and actually develop properties downtown. And so that happened a long time before the Jags and the city reached an agreement. So what you're seeing now, there's $8 billion of development happening now in downtown Jacksonville. What you're seeing now is the fruits of over a decade of intentionality between the public and the private partnerships that we have here. And the Jags are a big part of that as well. So the Jags are such an important part and an economic driver for Jacksonville. So they are here. They are a major, major component of it. But, you know, the city of Jacksonville was moving in this direction even before the stadium renovation happened with the Jags. And the reason is because it's the best thing that we can do for our great city. And I know you had some questions specifically on real estate. Well, it's not just the best thing for our great city. You know, Pablo and I live here, and some of you live here too. It's a great thing if you live here. For the 9,000 plus residents that rent our homes, it's a great thing. So we are all in from that component. But for you as a rental property investor, it is about the best thing that can happen for you as well, because what we see is that real estate values appreciate 89% more when you are investing in a city that is undergoing a revitalization. And we look to other successful downtowns like Tampa, Denver, Nashville, Austin. When you look at home values and rents and median incomes for great successful revitalizations of downtown, you start to say to yourself, wow, if I can just own single family rental properties surrounding the next great American downtown, I'm going to be able to ride that wave. And so that's what you are going to see as a rental property investor with JWB. We have positioned you in those neighborhoods where, while all of this great stuff is happening downtown, you're going to benefit from it without having to take the financial risk that all the developers have to take on by developing those downtown buildings.
It's almost like HT was like planted there to ask us that perfect question, to nail that spot in downtown. GC, good job, buddy. Good job.
You did first time in the new studio.
For the record, you did not see that coming. We're definitely clipping that piece. That's going. All right, we've got one last composition, and then we're going to give our final takeaways over the 500 episodes of like what we're thinking about these days, how it's affected us. But this last composition is kind of how we started, right? Like this is like a compilation of the headlines and GC kind of like stepping into his own as that thought leader, talking about the things that are coming. And, you know, to no surprise of many of us here in this community, you'll see that he's been pretty on, you've been pretty on it, buddy. We're about to pull up your receipts right here.
There we go.
Today, we are talking about the Jacksonville real estate market. Gregg, are you ready to tell people what the real estate prices are doing now and what we think they're going to do?
Pablo. I'm ready to jump into the market update, brother. Let's go. I've been waiting all night and all day for this thing. Let's do it. Our history of investing in rental properties, the data wins. And it won in 2006 when we bought 40 rental properties at the height of the market. And then we weathered the storm of prices dropping over 35% in the subsequent years. We saw that values do actually follow a pattern. And what that leading indicator is called months of inventory. So when we talked about what was going to happen with COVID, that's the first place we looked. Like anything else, pricing is determined by supply and demand. If you have a whole lot of inventory and things are not selling, you would see downward pressure on prices. And if you have very small amounts of inventory and things are selling really, really fast, then you're going to have upward pressure on pricing. Regardless of COVID, regardless of anything else, if you're seeing these things, this is what the leading indicator of pricing would be. Never seen interest rates this low. It's never happened. Freddie Mac releases interest rates every single month. I went and looked it up online since 1971 when they started reporting. It has never been as low as it is in July of 2020. So when we're talking about the deals, this really is a special time as far as interest rates. You know, now we have the benefit of hindsight. And I think, you know, hindsight is what we really all wanted when COVID broke. And so I remember at that time thinking, okay, let's go back to the data. You know, I came strong and I said, you know, especially on the home prices front, I don't think things are going to slow down. I don't think home prices are going to go down. And there were a lot of people who thought I didn't really know what I was talking about. You know, spoiler alert, a lot of those things turned out to be, you know, exactly like we said. January 6th, 2022 was our 16th year anniversary of being in business here at JWB. And I just want you to know that we now manage over 4,400 rental properties. That means that we manage over $750 million worth of real estate. As we look to January of 2022, that number for median home price jumped at a level that we have never seen before as long as we've been tracking this in Jacksonville. It jumped up 24% to a median home sales price of $318,000. Well, for all of you who joined us for John Burns being on the show, what he shared in his research is he's actually gone and seen what the big guys are doing with their money. The big guys and the big ladies out there are spending a lot of money to get into this space, and they are coming here for the first time, right? There's $30 billion coming to this space just in the last year and a half. Why are these companies saying, I could do anything with my money? Historically, I've never put my money in single family rental properties. And here's why. They have determined is the best risk-adjusted return on investment today. And that's why they are coming in at record paces. If you are media, your job is to write articles that are going to attract eyeballs and clicks. What do you think you're writing about when you see a graph like that?
It looks like home prices are taking a dip.
Do you think that that might get some clicks?
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, negative headlines drive way more clicks than positive ones.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you've been joining the show, I talked a lot about how home prices are going to go down in the second half of the year in 2022. And guess what? That's what we're seeing. Home prices are going down in 2022. But what I also said is that this does not mean that there's a crash coming. So we are so proud to have 3 clients that have earned over $2 million with their JWB rental property portfolios. We have had 38 clients have earned over $1 million with their JWB rental property portfolio. We are up 2 clients, and this is since Q1 is the last time that I ran this information. Okay. We have 162 clients that have earned over $500,000. That's up 4 clients since then, and we have 767 clients that have earned over $100,000. We're up 4 new clients that have reached that plateau as well. Total profits delivered for all JWB clients, all of you out there, is over $305 million. That is going to the most beautiful people I know. In 2025, we have $35 trillion of equity in our homes here. When you have $35 trillion of equity, it comes out to about 300 grand of equity per homeowner in the country. Really hard for there to be a crash, right? So it's completely different than 2008. 2025, there's no way we're going to have the crash. It is so much more important to choose the right market to put your wealth into in rental properties over today and the next 5 years. So much more important than the last 5 years. Over the last 5 years, really anybody who owned real estate, rental properties was going to walk away a winner. Right? Because you walked into an environment where there were super low interest rates and, you know, you had super high home price appreciation.
Cash flow pumped into the system.
And yeah, it reminded me of the time from 2001 to 2006. Right? Yeah. So like everybody was a winner 2001 to 2006 who bought that real estate if you bought it early enough. And it didn't mean that you were good, didn't mean that you were savvy, didn't mean you knew the fundamentals and what to look for. You just lucked out. Well, you know, over the next 5 years, you're really going to separate those investors who are savvy, who really understand the right market to put your money into, because the opportunity to choose the right market and to look beyond just what is, you know, down the road from you or in your neighborhood and choose the market to put your assets into is going to be a great separator. All we need is normalization. I think for all of us, people have been conditioned over the last 5 years for it to be the greatest thing in the world because interest rates were so low, or they've been conditioned that it's somehow going to fall off a cliff. And that's just not how it goes. It just performs normally, even when the world tends to be on fire. So all we need is normalization. That's what we're seeing, and that is what we expect to see.
Many different things there to pick out, GC, from the birth of MOI, from you kind of saying, hey guys, look at MOI, look at interest rates, nothing's going down, things are going up, to that moment in time where you were at like 4,400 doors and 800 million. Nowadays, you guys are at like 6,000 doors and 1 point something billion. I think the biggest thing is what Danny Davies just put here in the chat. GC equals the great constant in real estate, right? Like it just feels like a consistent message of you showing, hey, it's never as bad as the headlines make real estate sound. It has a very high floor. It has a very high upside as well. And in times where things are really bad, you lean on the floor, and in other times that upside is coming through.
That's what I believe. That's what's in my heart. You know, it's funny. I love calling it the great constant. I think another way of saying it is that I'm like the most boring dude you could ever find. Especially as we were talking about the montage in the beginning. I thought that was perfect. Like, I don't think anybody would tune into the show if I didn't have you, because this would be just the most boring show about a relatively boring asset class. So thank you, Denny, and thank you to my partner in crime, man, for balancing out the great constant.
The great constant. You know, man, I would love to end on a takeaway, but before that, the market update is its own thing that's evolved. Its own thing of, like, we talked about this, like you got thrust during COVID into this thought leader role, and the market update in general has been this milestone show that happens every single quarter. I've seen you evolve in your preparation. I've seen you evolve in like the format of how it comes out. I've seen you evolve in your confidence of like how you deliver it, and your willingness to outwardly challenge things, not just wait for them to challenge you on it.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about kind of like that, the market update as a piece for you, and how it's even evolved in the business, and how you tell the team about it and stuff like that.
You know, I would say the prep is about the same amount of time that goes into it now, but there was I think half of the prep before was just psyching myself up to take a stand. You know, that's really where I was for the first like year or two, and then it was a tough time to take a stand at that moment as well. And then I think the market update has really evolved into something which is a beautiful mixture of data with perspective. Right? Data with perspective. Now it has really evolved into something where we can look at these incredibly important topics that are maybe ancillary to real estate and make that connection. I think in the beginning, it was a little bit more of kind of like, how am I going to calm the nerves of everybody in a very chaotic time? And that was really hard for me to do live on screen, to talk about some things that are really emotionally charged. But I just love where it is right now, because now we have this regular rhythm. A quarter is just about enough time for things to potentially start to maybe shift in a certain direction that we can be ahead of the curve and talk to our clients about, what does this mean? Is this something to pay attention to? Or is this just hot air and it's going to blow over? So, yeah, I mean, I love kind of where we are. And then, you know, the other hidden benefit to the market update that you guys don't see is that it has helped me be a better leader and have us be helping our teammates be better informed. Because now what happens as I plan for the market update, I go and I present the market update to our team a couple of weeks before. And it's this beautiful cycle now where our team is much more knowledgeable about some of these things that the team doesn't talk about on a daily basis, whether that's legislative things or, you know, interest rate discussions or whatnot. So they're much more knowledgeable. But the cool thing is then they ask questions, and then it's this beautiful feedback loop. So by the time we come here, I do the presentation over again, I refine, and, you know, ultimately just hopefully create a better product and a better experience for all of you. So it has really evolved into something that I think is this magical quarterly routine.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's something that is just constant enough that it solves that for me.
Yeah, and if I was to tell somebody, like, I wanna understand real estate deeply over the last like 6 years, it's pretty easy to just point them to go look at those quarterly market updates and watch how that message has evolved and like how things really stay constant, even though things change around it, and how real estate is the GC, the great
That's a
constant.
really cool thing. If you can go back and look at
Yeah.
how we talked about these 5 profit centers
Mhm.
in 2021, you will see so many similarities to how we are talking about it today.
Yeah.
But that's not normal. That's not normal. Most sales people would have only talked about the good things back in 2021 and then would be much more susceptible to focusing on the negative things today. Real estate really is perfect for me. Hopefully it's perfect for you because it is constant. It is something that is even keeled. It is something that is a bedrock type of an asset that can really, serve as a foundation. So yeah, it's and I'm glad we have our receipts. We have it all on tape.
Got the receipts, baby.
There you go.
All right, GC. Speaking of receipts, time for our number one takeaway, right? Of watching these compilations of the experience. I've been thinking about it, man. I'll go first. In the last 24 hours, I've had 2 people reach out to me asking me a similar question of, man, real estate's really making sense to me. What do you recommend to me? And I find myself going back to giving them the same advice. I keep going back to the idea that so many of these shows that we see, our guest investors, are these stories about, I tried it the way that everybody kind of like talks about it. I got my hand burned on the stove. Then I found the JWB way. And now, boom, name your outcome that I wanted. And it's become this like undeniable proof for me of the belief in the order of operations that we talk about. And more importantly, an intelligent person learns from their mistakes. Like a truly brilliant person can learn from the mistakes of others. And what I feel like we've done, and we kind of talked about a little bit earlier on the show today, is we have been able to highlight a bunch of really, really intelligent people over time, giving these like consistent messages of, sure, the whole world is telling you to do it one way. This way is like, seems too good to be true, or it seems weird, or it's just like so unique that's hard to understand. But we've really distilled it all into here to turn this into this asset for all of us. It's become, for me, the most fortunate thing that could have happened to me, because I have become an investor in like I'm a true native of the not your average way of investing.
Right.
I did it through this like way that's really uncommon. I've as someone that's only done it this way, it's so easy. Even me having the success that I've had, I can look around and say, well, I want to try this other thing. I want to try this other thing. But I have this constant reminder of, this is the way. This is the way to do it. Like, this is the way that I'm seeing all these other people succeed. All these other intelligent people have done it another way, and it's not as good as this way. And they continue to go back to it. From my conversation with Jeff Moroncow in the airport, to just like all these like things on the airport. And I'm just like, I feel incredibly fortunate that I have stumbled into just like surrounding myself and becoming the average of the 5 people that I surround myself, which is this community, and become this real estate investor, so much to the point where I no longer feel this like imposter syndrome around, well, I've only done it this way, so this is all I can tell you. As much as I've gone from that imposter of like, I'm not really a real estate investor, to no, I'm just actually the most fortunate real estate investor that's been able to experience it this way. I haven't had to like burn my hand on the stove because I've been surrounded by this community, and I feel completely empowered in going on and telling people about this from an expert level.
I mean, now you're speaking on national stages.
Yeah, true.
Right?
Yeah.
You're advising others on
Yeah.
how to do rental property investing, property management,
Build property management companies.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that would not have been you back in the day. That confidence piece that you mentioned at the
Yeah.
end there, I think that is, beyond the success that you've had of being a rental property investor and owning the properties. The confidence is something I think a lot of folks can really, share in that success.
Yeah.
And you needed both. You needed access to an expert,
Yeah.
which, you have in me and my team and whatnot, but that wouldn't have been enough. That's not enough for most people, right? You need to see it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
The social proof of seeing some folks that you really, really respect,
Yeah.
also sharing their message as well.
Yeah.
So.
And it's now 6 years. I've lived the experience, right? Like, it's kind of like the triple threat, right? Like, I feel like I have enough experience in it. I've seen enough people, and of course, I've been lucky enough to live inside the guts of what I think is one of the most compelling company in real estate. So I just feel very lucky about it and very confident about it.
Well, I'll end with mine. You know, I have had, it's been a year of reflection for me between all these wonderful milestones. So I feel like I have just been so blessed to have a lot of really wonderful milestones achieved in a relatively short period of time over the first, 5 months of this year. As I start to think about the show and us reaching 500 episodes, the thing that just jumps out to me is that, like, I have been through a couple of iterations of success now, and the show is one of them, and they all kind of share a few themes. When we started the company, it was my business partner Alex, our president, and myself, and we've been best buddies since college. But I was working at a job, and I was really excited about this idea of real estate, but the truth is that I was scared to move forward, and I don't think that I ever would have taken the step to become an entrepreneur if I didn't have Alex next to me. I need people around me to help me take that next step, which I think is pretty common for all of us.
Yeah.
And so I saw that iteration happen. And, for the last 20 years with Alex and my two other business partners, Adam, both named Adam, it is that constant of, hey, we're going to go and we're going to try to achieve something that's a little bit beyond what Gregg's comfort level is. And we're going to push. And then we get there, and then it seems not so hard. And I love that cycle, and I know that I couldn't do that by myself. I have to surround myself with people who will allow me to be uncomfortable. So as I relate back to the show, the thing I'm most thankful for is you and this community, because I'm thankful for Kate Sutherland. I'm thankful for Cody Adams. I'm thankful for Johanna and Brian and JP and everybody on your team. I'm thankful for all the teammates here who have supported, JWB teammates who have supported and been on the shows, because this would never have happened. I would have shut it down before it ever took flight if it was just up to me. And that's just me being real, because I am an introvert and this is not comfortable for me. But I look here 6 years later and I'm able to kind of share some of these vulnerable things with the world here. And I'm a better version of myself because of this community, because you guys show up, hundreds of you show up each and every week. And because, I'm here with you, buddy. So I am so thankful for this most recent iteration of success within JWB. And I think as a business owner, after doing something for 20 years, you need that.
Yeah.
If not, it will get stale, and it never gets stale for me, because I have you.
Ah, man, that warms my heart to hear that. And I don't think I think it's a perfect microcosm of what we're all going through here, right? Like, it is being surrounded by the right people that allow you to do great things. Our community is exactly just it's that at another scale, right? Like, it's a bunch of folks that are generous enough to, even though they've reached the place that they've found, they still come back here to learn, to contribute to others, to give their phone numbers to others. They come to the summits. They're willing to help each other out, because I think we all know this. I think we all found this, like, really, really special little watering hole in a giant internet universe that is, like, I don't want to sound superfluous, but it's so pure, right? Like, I remember when Bella was going to speak to the Not Your Average Investor meetup.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, I'm so nervous for her. She's going to talk. I'm like, buddy, there isn't a kinder audience. There isn't a safer place to, like, be yourself and be vulnerable, because of this group of people that all of us are, united by this one weird thing that we do differently than everybody else. Whether, real estate investing by itself is niche, the way that we do it here is even more niche.
Yeah.
And it's a whole bunch of folks that are doing it in a very, very unique way. But we have that in common, and we also have this, like, really, really generous spirit that's incredible. That's added a lot of value to my life. It's made me a smarter investor. I think it's made all of us a little bit braver about the decisions we make, man. And it wouldn't happen without you taking a chance on all of this stuff, man. I think this I'll say it 1,000 times, right? Like this community, this little exercise of what we did as a business development thing has changed my life. This is my proudest creation. It has changed my career. It's had me written about in books, and now, spoiler alert, we're writing the book of like what we've learned here that should come out later this year. And I'm just really excited to have been on this ride with you and with everybody else, man.
Likewise, brother.
A lot of love in the chat. Like I could read all this, man. We should print this all out and listen to it and put it on our walls. But just thank you to each of you that show up here every single week to learn about real estate, middle of the work week. Take your time out to connect with people, to share your experience, to come on the show, ask questions, to give us feedback on the studio, Lee. Appreciate all the notes from last week.
There we go.
Even the microphone locations have improved because of the notes you gave us, pal. I think it looks pretty good.
I think so.
I think it looks pretty good. What do you guys think? It looks good. And yes, each and every one of you have really, really changed your life. And it's been amazing. Next week, we have Le Monsieur, Reggie Fonse, coming on to share his story with GC, go into his client journey. From now till then, GC, any piece of advice?
Don't be average. See ya.